Welcome to the Mary Mac Show, where we will be talking about your feelings, experiences, and pain following the death of a loved one. Hello, my friends, my warriors. This is Mary Mac of the Mary Mac Show. I am so fortunate to have Debbie with me today. Debbie Howland, whose daughter Ava Michelle was killed by fentanyl poisoning in 2018. And at that point, it was very new. Fentanyl poisonings were very new, and they were not given the attention that they needed. And so today, I have this wonderful woman who's willing to tell us about her story and the struggles that her daughter Ava had over her life and her advocacy. We'll talk about that at the end. She is the state, I'm going to get this right, the state representative and moderator for Pennsylvania for drug-induced homicide. And she moderates the Facebook group for Pennsylvania. And also she pitches in on other states' Facebook groups as well. So I thank her so much for being here. Thank you for joining me, Debbie.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you. So would you tell us about Ava's growing up years? And by the way, Ava's middle name is Michelle. And my middle name is Michelle, and we both say it. We both spell it the same way.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was one of the first things I noticed when you told me your daughter's name.
Yeah, that's actually special. How she got that.
It is. Some people only use one L, right?
Yeah. So Ava was. My husband died at the age of 55 in 1995. When Ava was 2. Ava was a surprise. And so Ava got her first name from her, what would have been, I guess, her great-grandmother who died. My husband used to tell me stories about his grandmother chasing him with a broom. And while pregnant, my husband got mad, and I said, what's your grandmother's name? And he said, Ava. And I said, that's going to be our daughter's name. And so she got her name Ava from there. And then the Michelle came because I had never gotten pregnant and didn't know why I wasn't getting pregnant. I went to a doctor, California, I'm sorry, in Las Vegas. His name was Michael. And he treated me, and I got pregnant. So,
it's wonderful.
That's how she got her name, Ava Michelle. We took the Michael and made it Michelle.
That's great.
So that's how she got it. So Ava was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, St. Mary's Dominican Hospital. She was 7 pounds, and she was just a bundle of joy. She did struggle at birth. She struggled a little bit, but my Ava baby came around, and we brought her home, and my husband looked at me, and I looked at her, and I'm like, we're going to break her. And so we just learned how to be parents, and he just absolutely adored his daughter. He was the most wonderful father that a daughter could ever ask for. And then he had some pain. I told him, well, you probably got gallstones, go to doctors. And sure enough, he went to the doctors, and he called me, and he said, I have to go in for surgery tomorrow. I have gallstones. So I went in for surgery, and he came out with a death sentence. He had liver cancer, primary liver cancer, which produces these large tumors. So Ava and I took care of him. I wouldn't put him in hospice, so we took care of him at home. And my little Ava and I gave Daddy a bath the morning quietly passed away with me um, laying at his, on his across his feet. Um, and then I had to raise Ava alone. So it was just me and Ava. And, him and I just adored each other. She was a wonderful child growing up. She was very smart. Uh, uh, my girlfriend and I started Mommy and Me in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so she had a lot of exposure to other children. And, we took them to libraries, we took them to parks, we had play dates, that kind of thing. Mommy and Me, I believe, still exists in Las Vegas. And my girlfriend's still out there. So she had a pretty normal childhood there, and then it just got to be too much being in Las Vegas, so we moved to Pennsylvania. My parents were here, this is where I was from, so we moved here. So she grew up in our home. We had a home, and she had a pretty normal childhood. She was a cheerleader, I believe, 13 years. And I don't quote me on that because Allie tells me it's 13. I thought it was 8, but she was a cheerleader most of her life. And so she was a competition cheerleader. So we traveled, and I was also a director for a little while of the in-house cheerleading program. So that was the 5 to 12-year-olds that weren't in competition. So we did that, and then we did the competition cheerleading. And she did good until she started getting bullied a lot. So she had a lot of people bullying her. She was, a little bit what I would say baby fat. Um, and so they bullied her hard. And she finally fought back one day. And then all of a sudden she was in the popular crew. And that was the start of the downhill, I think, for her. Being in the popular crew, she wanted to be skinny. And, she changed a lot, but she's a good kid. She just hung with the wrong people most of the time, and so that took her down a path. And then I noticed signs of mental illness in her, so I took her to the doctors, and she was diagnosed very early on in life with quite a few diagnoses for mental health, and so she was put on medications at an early age, and I think that sometimes made it worse. And then, of course, as they get older, then they start to realize that they can self-medicate, and that takes them down a path. And that's pretty much what happened. She started self-medicating on pills and couldn't afford that, and somebody handed her heroin, I guess. And I think she thought she'd never be addicted to anything. She told me that over and over again. And,
that she could control it.
the heroin got her. Yeah. So she did good. She got on Suboxone and she did good. And I sent her to Florida and she did good there. And then I couldn't afford to keep her there anymore and brought her home. And she was on Suboxone. We had ups and downs, but she did good on the Suboxone. Suboxone kind of brought my daughter back to me. And she relapsed. And so she went to Florida again. Well, this time she got caught in something that's referred to as the Florida Shuffle. And so
And how old was she at that point?
She went to Florida, let's see, it'll be 2000, I'll say, I'm not good at math, so she went there in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So this is about 2 years before she
She
died?
was about 22, 21, 22 when she went to Florida this last time. And so she got she had gotten mixed up in basically what I would say is a large criminal activity that went on, and so she ended up in a what they call, her death certificate reads a halfway house, but they call them sober homes in Florida, or sober living homes, and that's where she died. She had died of fentanyl and 4-AN PP, fentanyl toxicity. So she didn't stand a chance. She died alone in the room. At least that's what we believe, and what I've been able to gather from the people that are left. Most of the people that were there that day are deceased. So
Didn't you tell me before that the dosage was so high?
yes, I think I don't have her death certificate. I have to look it up, but I think she was 41 milligrams, and I think it's only two to take your life. And she had she had some Xanax in her, and we think that she got fake Xanax. That's what I think. I
Mhm.
don't know for a fact. I'll never know for a fact exactly what happened to her that day because she was alone. Only God and Ava knows. So you can only you spend a lot of time investigating when you lose a child to first of all, I didn't know well, I knew what fentanyl was, but I didn't realize the impact the fentanyl could have, like killing you like that. Like I had been in I had been on the Addicts Mom web's Facebook page for a period of time,
Mhm.
and I had heard fentanyl mentioned in that page, but it didn't click until I got the death certificate and it said
Mhm.
fentanyl.
Right.
That's when I started really researching fentanyl, and that's how I wasn't able to get them to investigate. Well, I wasn't able to get them to do what I would deem a proper investigation. They closed her case as soon as they got the toxicology report. So basically, in my opinion, in my opinion, in my heart, how I felt was treated like my daughter was just another dead statistic, another dead addict is how I felt.
Right.
So
And where
that
was
led
this?
me
Where was this?
was West Palm Beach, Florida.
Mhm.
So that led me to induced homicide. That led me to other families that were enduring the same treatment that I was enduring, and so it also led me to other parents who had lost their children the same way that I did,
Right.
uh, lost in the shuffle. So it's amazing how all of us network across the country, in Canada, in Africa, in Australia. We network all over the world, and it's
Isn't that
amazing.
amazing when you think about it? I mean,
It is amazing.
we live in an age that we can connect with everyone, whereas
Yeah,
decades ago we didn't even have cell
yeah,
phones.
yeah. When I grew up, it was yell out the front door, come home for dinner. There was
Yeah.
no
But
cell phone.
when we grew up, um, our parents would just like say to us, come back when the lights come on,
When
the
the
street
lights come
lights
on, the
come
street
on,
lights, yeah,
right?
yep, yep,
And
exactly.
everybody took care of us, or everybody in the
And
neighborhood took care of us.
the drugs weren't killing people,
No,
right? So
no.
you can be a heroin addict for 20 years, 30 years. I mean,
Yep.
our guys that served in the service came home, and they had problems with addiction, and you know, but this fentanyl that's been raging, and when Ava died, it was pretty new. I don't I know that she did not ask for fentanyl. That much I do know. Um, I you know, I was able to get some information, but it was, I don't believe she knew she was getting fentanyl, because on the medical reports, there were very minute, extremely minute amounts of fentanyl in February, and she'd overdosed twice in February down there, the first and the 7th or
Wow.
8th, and I didn't know about the second overdose until I got her medical reports from the lawsuits. So I don't believe she knew it, but she knew something was wrong, because she kept saying, Mom, I'm sick. I can't get better. Like, I don't, the cravings are so bad. I don't know what to do. Like, she knew something was wrong. She knew, but she didn't know.
Yeah.
And
She didn't know
she
what
did.
it was, but she just
I,
knew the
I
symptoms.
don't, I don't believe, and even her medical reports over and over again state her saying, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. but the cravings are just so bad. I can't get, she did not want to die. She wanted to live. And she told me that she lost, I sadly, her first boyfriend and lifelong friend died in March of 2018. And I pulled her out of treatment to come home for his funeral. And that would be the last time that I would ever see my daughter. Fox News actually interviewed us at the airport. It was the worst snowstorm ever. And she had come home for that funeral. She was devastated. She didn't sleep for 3 days. She cried for 3 days. She was devastated beyond devastation. And I only sent her back because I thought she was going to be safer in a good treatment facility, because the place that she was at the time was a good facility. And so I thought that she would be safer and she would, wouldn't be alone here with me. And I thought she would be safer, and instead she's dead. But so my way of coping with my daughter's loss of my daughter, my only child, was I started advocating and getting involved. And so that's how I got involved in drug-induced homicide.
How did you find it?
I got pulled in from another mom who had lost her daughter in Florida to the same. I believe it was, I believe it was her that brought me in, but I don't remember. I can't honestly tell you how I got in there, but I know that when I got in there, I was impressed with the support that you got in. We try to help families navigate the justice system. We try to, advocate for a shift in the way that people think and treat these, what they call drug overdoses. They're not overdoses, there's no illicit. Fentanyl is well, just what it is. It's illicit. It's an illicit drug. It's not, it's not a prescribed drug. There's no safe prescription for illicit fentanyl or
Right.
bathtub meth or whatever you want to call it. Like these are illicit drugs. They're being flooded into the United States, and unfortunately the fentanyl, Ava, like you said, when Ava died, fentanyl wasn't very prevalent in 2018, but after 2018, it started to skyrocket. And I think we lost probably 75,000 last year to fentanyl, if not more. I know we had 180,000 or 109,000 deaths. And I think, about 80% of them were fentanyl deaths. So, and I'm just guessing at those numbers. I don't know the exact numbers unless I look them up. I don't have a good memory to read them off to you. I'm sorry. I have to
No,
look
that's
them up.
perfectly fine. I know
But
that in the beginning, no one, well, I shouldn't say no one, but most law enforcement did not say what it really was that killed someone, that it was
yeah,
related. They gave it some stupid names. And
well,
so we wouldn't be able to track those deaths.
yes. So synthetic opioid is, there's called some, synthetic opioids, but the thing was they weren't testing for them. They could do a drug screen and they wouldn't pick that up. It wouldn't be picked up because they weren't testing for it. So some of the advocacy that parents do now is they, are advocating for emergency rooms, and there are emergency rooms now, including a fentanyl screening, when they have someone come in as a an overdose, or someone who's on their someone who's dead that they're bringing back to life with Narcan. They're testing for fentanyl now, and then we have a lot more tools than we had thanks to the harm reduction groups. We do have a lot more tools to kind of weed out or help weed out people who are using, to help them to not die of fentanyl, thanks to harm reduction groups. But we do support accountability, which most harm reduction groups do not support. We do support the families, whose children died because they were unlawfully delivered a controlled substance resulting in their death. And
which was completely counterfeit.
well, and the thing is, we advocate for accountability. Ava paid her price, my daughter's dead. Like, my daughter's dead. She's paid her price. She paid her price that day for the mistake that she made. She's dead. And so I give these cards out whenever I do something nice for somebody. They're called pay it forward cards. They don't make them anymore. They were angel cards, but her cards went out all over the country,
That's
actually.
great.
And so, but um, Tara and Matt, all the people who support the drug and homicide group, uh, the parents that are going to court, parents within that area or within that state will drive or go to their court hearings. They stand in front of the courtrooms with their,
Yeah.
drug induced homicide posters, and we support each other. And when you're going through it, especially court and legal cases, when you're going through those, they're traumatic. You are constantly thrown, this, Mary. They constantly throw you back to the moment in time you lost the person that meant so much to you. And it's just a constant torture. And even when you get justice, I always say it's bittersweet, because in my daughter's cases, there were multiple cases. After I read impact statements or after they were over, I had to face the fact of what my daughter suffered. And I had to face the fact that I, you know, I should have done better. I could have done better. Maybe I should have been more empathetic, or, you have all those, would have, could have, should have, that you
Sure.
just go round and round with. But the fact of the matter is, she didn't know what they were doing, and I didn't know what they were doing. And it was those people, it was the person who gave her the fentanyl that killed my daughter,
Yes.
right? Um, yes, she took it and she died, but the person who gave it to her
Is
is
responsible.
never been held accountable. And so I will never get accountability. It'll be 6 years, and I'll never get that portion of accountability or justice. So I help other families uh, try to get that justice through drug and use homicide. And
And almost like you're living vicariously through their victories.
you do. And for every victory, especially when there's an effective change in the law, that's, you're just overjoyed that, another parent isn't going to go through that. And I think that's what we all fight for. We don't want another family to suffer the way that we have suffered. And we want to be supportive. And that also helps you when you're supportive and you're on a mission. Um, it helps you navigate your grief
Absolutely.
and the loss of your child or your family member. It helps you navigate that. And that's the best that you can do, is to, uh, keep honoring their memory, hope that they save lives in their memories, you know, warn the general public at large,
Yeah.
which has not, it's been very slow. We do partner. I mean, I take drug induced homicide to the DEA summit, in Philadelphia. I've been there twice. We do partner. We help parents, find out how to get into their kids' phones. They partner with a company called Second Peak. Just the little things that we do that help parents, to give them even an ounce of hope. I mean, you're looking for something to hold on to when you lose a child. And our mission is to, raise awareness and try to get these drugs treated as criminal investigations rather than as, just another, but my daughter was more than that. My daughter was a human being, and my daughter was a wonderful person, and she had a heart of gold. And she would give anybody the shirt off her back, and she did. She was, tortured for being a little overweight. Uh, she didn't let that turn her into a mean person, and it could have made her really, really horrible, and it didn't. She still stayed kind. Um, I won't say that uh, being drug addicted to heroin, it's a very terrible addiction. It's a very hard addiction to navigate. It's a very hard addiction for people to get well. And I give every single person out there that's in sobriety the utmost respect and love from my heart because, I watched how hard my daughter suffered, and it's hard. You know, these people fight for their lives every day,
Yeah,
and we're out there fighting for them too.
and you are. And you
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And how are you doing these days? I mean, besides doing all of your advocacy work, um, how do you deal with your grief too?
So with grief, I joined PA Team Sharing, which is a grief group, a Facebook grief group here in Pennsylvania. And then Cheryl Hoare from Team Sharing Incorporated, she started grief groups when she lost her son Corey. So there's a national chapter, Team Sharing, and then there's also we have there used to be state groups, but now it's the national, and Pennsylvania happens to have its own state group still. So started in that group, and parents got me down to DC and, doing the poster thing, that kind of thing. And then eventually I ended up becoming a moderator of the group and, posting grief support, inspirational support, self-care support, good morning posts, good night posts. I did that until very recently. I recently stepped down as a moderator for both those groups, mainly because my hands were having trouble being on the phone too much. So that comes with age, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you how old I am. No, I'm kidding.
You
Anyway,
don't need
it
to
comes with
know.
age. I was 30 when I had Ava, so I was an older mom. So, and her dad, he died at 55. So, I think he was 53 when I had Ava. So we were older parents. Um, yeah, so how do I navigate? So my sister-in-law started a wonderful program
Yes, tell us
called,
about that.
yeah, so she started a wonderful program called Ava for Life, and it's a Narcan services program. And basically what it is it's a it's a Narcan dispenser. It uses the Expedose machine, and it's point of service care. So basically, the doctor can the patient doesn't have to go get a prescription or go buy it over the counter now. Back before you couldn't get it, you had to have a prescription or standing orders most states
Right.
had. But now doctors can actually get it right, point of service. A treatment center has a point of service. Anybody can have this put, it's a program that, goes through Stellar RX. So, they can teach how to use it right at point of service,
Wow.
and it also saves, people who are addicted suffer a lot of stigma. And I know that my daughter suffered terrible stigma every time she went to CVS, or Walgreens, or, these major pharmacies, even Walmart. Like, she would call me crying all the time, and this eliminates the need to, it requires a prescription, but it eliminates the need to go to a pharmacy. So help, alleviate a little bit of that stigma. So that was a surprise in honor of her niece. My sister-in-law Heather did that, and that was for her niece Ava.
Oh,
So, and then like I said, I do, um, so I'll advocate Ava for Life and drug-induced homicide and team sharing. Um, just a lot. I go to other people's rallies. Uh,
like we were
I
talking about
participate, and then I
lost
do a lot of
voices.
billboards. Do a lot of billboards. Lost Voices of Fentanyl right here.
Yeah.
I do a lot of billboards through Rachel's Angels, and we're in the process working. think Taylor's in the process of doing banners for our drug-induced homicide state groups, so that'll be exciting when we can have banners. So everything that we all do in every group, including drug-induced homicide, the billboard groups, everything that we do is not I'll never forget the first poster I made for my daughter. Everybody was making these posters and telling me I had to have a poster. And my daughter was dead. And I made this poster and I posted it on Facebook and everybody was like, oh, it looks great. And I remember looking at the poster and just saying, I don't want a effing poster. I want my kid back.
Right.
And I remember how devastating that was. I remember that pain. And I never forget that pain. And when I hold her posters, go to a drug-induced homicide rally with her drug-induced homicide, that's my child that's dead. She's not just a picture on a poster.
Right.
That is my child. That is the person that I gave birth to, that I raised, that I loved all of my life. And fentanyl took her life away. So, yeah, we advocate, we help. We navigate grief the best we can. The dead, as Tara has on the drug-induced homicide, the dead cannot cry out for justice. It's the duty of the living to do so for them.
Yeah.
We are the survivors of drug-induced homicide, and this is our fight. And our children are victims. And I think that alone is a very important statement. They are victims. They didn't ask to die. They didn't want to die. And they were poisoned with fentanyl. At least my daughter was. And I know Tara's daughter was given MDMA.
Sydney.
Sydney, yes, Sydney, and her beautiful daughter, Sydney. There's so many, there's so many, there's just so many. And we have to try to stop it. And the only way we can try to stop it is to advocate and, hope that we reach or we talk to one person to make a difference in one life or save one life in honor of our children. I mean, that's the best that you can do. And so, I wear her pin. I've worn her pin since the day she died. Lady named Treasure made this pin, and it's got a fentanyl. I asked her, she wanted a purple ribbon on it, and I said, no, I want a black ribbon for fentanyl. So I wear this, and I've worn it since Ava's died. I wear it everywhere. I have it on my jacket. And of course, I carry my drug-induced homicide cards, my business card, and I carry these everywhere I go. And some of our cards actually on the back have a lot of information about fentanyl now. And then I do the drug, I'll take a table, I'll go to other people's events, and I'll raise awareness on behalf of drug-induced homicide.org and Ava for Life. But
Excellent.
And you do this, you do something I've never done, and I don't think I've ever done a podcast before. So
Oh,
this
well,
is new
I
to
feel
me.
honored. This is your
I did
initiation.
I did an interview. I did 2 interviews, I think, but I don't think they were called podcasts. But anyway, that's why I said, what's a podcast? So, but yeah, like I said, I was an older mom, and I'm kind of generationally not up on all of the technology that everybody else is. So
it's perfectly fine. I created this series because I knew what we went through when we were dealing with homicide, and how difficult it was back then just to make a dent the way you guys are, to let people understand what it's like to live with a homicide in your life. I mean, it's devastating. And the trial, and hopefully you get a conviction. And there are so many people in this country who never even get a arrest. It's an unsolved murder. There are, oh my God, almost upward of 60% of the murders are unsolved. It's pathetic. And I equate that to fentanyl. So many people who have not gotten their justice, who have never gotten a proper investigation, you know?
Only about an estimation of all of the cases, about 1% are actually prosecuted, which you know, statistically, that's a terrible statistic. That, when you think about all of these deaths and all of these families that are impacted, and, it's not just me that I lost my daughter. My sister-in-law lost her niece. She started this Ava for Life program. Tara Bear lost her daughter. She started drug-induced homicide. Um, Tara's husband was, impacted. Sydney's family was impacted. Ava's family was impacted. It's not, it's just, it, your family was impacted. You're impacted. Families across America are suffering. And a lot of it doesn't have to be because, education, by bringing education, accountability and prevention measures out to the public at large will help reduce many of the things that are out there, which is, now they've got the xylazine out there, that's poisoning people, that's an animal tranquilizer, not for human consumption.
Right.
The fentanyl, the fentanyl mixtures,
Yes.
kids are dying of weed tainted with fentanyl. So they're not going to investigate these deaths properly, but I will say many, many more departments and police departments and law enforcement agencies are getting more involved with the prosecution or trying to prosecute the traffickers and the people that are, really, causing a lot of this terrible impact of fentanyl in our country. So, we will partner with those, the DEA. The DEA does amazing work and amazing community outreach, including working with drug-induced homicide,
Yes.
So when they participate, they come to the rallies, the DEA will
Yes,
come
I
to the
remember
rallies.
listening to them last year in Washington.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we do
And
all we
and those
can.
all those people, I mean, as many as we can, sheriffs and other police
Yeah.
officers.
I truly, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I truly don't think that any of us, whether it be the police departments, the drug enforcement agencies, the FBI, I don't think that any of us were ready for what was going to happen with fentanyl. I don't think there, I think it wasn't until these mass amounts of human beings were dying that people started to realize that, oh my God, we're in trouble here and
Yeah.
somebody's got to stop it. And so, but Tear Bear we call her Tear Bear,
Yeah.
Terry. She was, at the very beginning, forefront of trying to get these types of deaths investigated.
Yes.
And, she's definitely a role model for me. She's an amazing person. She's kind. She's had a great loss, but she's still out there fighting. And, she started Bare Bones and she was a Chicago police officer and
Yes.
her
For
department
over 20 years.
would not investigate her daughter's death. And so, you know, you look at the tenacity and what that must have felt like for her.
Right.
The tenacity that she had, standing on those street corners with them signs and the parents yelling, and you just, and she was like a role model to me. And I really am proud to walk beside her and with her through the drug-induced homicide growth and change and advocacy work. I really am proud to walk with her, Matt.
I
So,
feel
yeah.
she's a maverick, a crusader in her own
She
right,
and
right?
yes, and she truly she beyond that, she's truly a very, very kind person.
She is. I was so
Um,
glad to meet her last September, the night before the rally. When we
yeah.
saw each other, because she had been on the show, and when we finally saw each other, we were like, oh. Yeah,
When
it's
I
it's
met her,
really
I
nice
just
to see people who you've chatted with, and yeah,
it was nice to hold her and hug her. I met her in Chicago at the Ride for John. Uh, and so I had met quite a few of the advocates up there, and but she just amazed me. She was just so sweet and so kind, and I thought, wow, you're just
even with
really a role
everything
model.
she's been through, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just even being a Chicago police officer for that long, like
Yeah.
she's just so kind, and she's like that all the time. Her demeanor doesn't really change. She's very, very kind, and she's really worked hard at the drug-induced homicide.org, and bringing drug-induced homicide to the forefront. And I think people get scared in some ways at drug-induced homicide, but what they don't, and this is what I tell people when I take drug-induced homicide table out to an event, I'll say, but do you know what we do? Do you know that we help people get into their cell phones? Do you know that we help people how to navigate the justice system? Do you know that we go stand beside our families that are going to court that are at the worst days of their lives? We stand beside them and hold them and hug them and support them. Like, do you understand like really what we do? That we try to advocate to change laws and that we really do want to see the traffickers stopped. We want to see the high level traffickers stopped. We want, we want, we want to never see another death. I mean, none of us want to see another death. 40 years ago, you didn't die from drugs. Very rarely did people die from drugs. It was just not prevalent
Didn't
way
happen.
back then.
No,
But
people used to,
now,
and people used to trust whoever, wanted to do it with them. Like if you wanted
yeah, and
to,
that's,
you wanted to
yeah,
get high, so you smoked pot at college or whatever.
yeah.
And you never thought that death was on the table. Never.
No, no, and honestly, I don't even believe my daughter knew she died.
No.
Like she died that fast. I don't believe that she knew she died. Um, and it's just so many lives, so many beautiful, talented, wonderful human beings that never got a chance to live. And it's just really sad. And we at drug-induced-homicide.org, um, and we as parents do everything that we can to have nobody walk in our shoes. That would be the goal, to
Ultimate.
have not
Yeah.
another single parent walk in our shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think whoever the person was that came out with the Ugly Shoes Club, I think it was in New Zealand or something, they had it right. And shoes are hard to walk in. They hurt a lot, and you ache, but you still get out there and you fight. And even when you get tearful, and even when you're sad, you just say breathe, and I'm going to do this, and you do it. I think that my daughter her death brought out parts of me I didn't even know existed. You know,
Yeah,
she brought out the warrior in me.
that's right. She brought out the strength that you didn't think you had,
She did,
right?
and she
And
gives me.
she brought out the person who put others before her own loss to try to help them survive as well, right?
We help each other.
That's right.
We all help each other.
And
you know?
even after you do all that, you come back home after a court case or whatever, and you sit down and you have your tea or coffee, right? And you sit there and you think to yourself, did I just do that? Right? Did I just help that family go through that trial or, hearing
Yes,
whatever?
you don't, I mean, just, you don't like, y- being a moderator for a group, whether it be drug-induced homicide or when I moderated other groups, you do a lot of phone time with families
Yeah,
and a lot of messaging with families, and you know, it's just, we put ourselves out there to help each other, and
right.
sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, and but you don't. You know you have to help that person. I can't explain it. Like you just know you have to
Totally
help them.
understand. When
And
I
it
was
doesn't
in that
matter.
role, when I was in
Yeah,
that role, I used to take a glass of wine because I knew it was going to be a 2 to 4 hour phone call.
exactly.
Okay,
Mm.
because you are inviting someone to trust you, and you are inviting that person to tell their entire story from beginning to end, and however long it takes for them to get that out of them. Do you know what I mean? Is what's
Yes,
necessary, especially when it's a new family.
especially a lot of listening and
Yeah.
a lot of, I'm sorry, just being quiet and letting them talk and letting them speak.
Yes.
Um, it's not just a web page, it's not just a web page, it's not just a Facebook page. We are all people and families that have lost something very dear to us, and we fight for justice. And we're the survivors. Our kids didn't survive, our grandkids didn't survive, our family members didn't survive. Your stepdaughter didn't survive, so we fight for them. That's what we do. We fight for them and navigate grief. Do podcasts, I guess you call it. So, everybody finds their niche in this fight, and that's what I always say. One of the things I help people do is, when Ava died, I did outreach, um, and collected. What I found was I started doing outreach, and I ended up in the long run doing it by myself. And what I found is did outreach for almost 5 years. Is that as I did it, I realized that other families wanted to help and they wanted to honor their kids. So I took donations from angel families, and then I would create these beautiful graphics, and I would read their children's names and all the pictures of what they gave me. And I worked with an organization called Savage Sisters down in Philadelphia, um, and I partnered with them for a couple of years doing outreach. I had to step down because physically it became too much. But we all find our little niche. And so now that I've gone through many different roles in my grief, I'm still, still with drug abuse homicide. And, and I think I'll stay in this group for a long time, and I think I'll moderate for a long time because I believe in everything that we advocate for. And I believe that, it, we have to speak for our loved ones, and we have to get justice. And if we can't get justice, then we have to at least teach people, what we've learned, what doesn't work, what does work.
Right.
It's really important to share. I think sharing is caring. That's what we
Totally
do.
agree. And my big thing is we come to a point where um, when we are able to look at what we're grateful for about the life of our child, what we're
Oh, yes.
grateful for, when we get to that place where we can look and be okay with looking at gratitude instead of just what we don't have or all the losses we have, you know, it kind
Exactly.
of it turns things around, you
It
know.
does. I always say, you get to a point where you stop living in the darkness of their death and then you begin to live in the light of their life. And that's
Oh,
what I
that's
say.
lovely. I love that.
That's what I tell people, is that you'll get to a point where you will no longer live in that darkness of their death, but you'll begin to let their light of their life, the light of their life shine. And so you'll be so proud to say, my daughter was a cheerleader for 13 years and she was really good at it. And I was very proud of her. And you get to a point where, you know, I sent out these little cards all over the country. And a beautiful woman in Wichita Falls uh, makes these beautiful little towels for me that I would give out at the events. She would hand sew them. She never met me, but she got my daughter's card. And so she would mail me these packages with little candy in them, and she'd have all these towels that she hand sewed. Her name was
Oh,
Lord.
nice.
This world of loss and grief uh, brings some of the most wonderful people into your life that you could ever imagine. And it's they are the light until you can find your light
Yeah,
in your loss. And
totally
so
agree.
well, we're grateful for them. You're grateful for you. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for Tara. I'm grateful for all the people. I'm grateful for my sister doing something so special. I'm grateful for Matt, who, you know, he just battles for Alexandra. You know, his daughter Alexandra, his
Yes.
beautiful daughter. Um, and you know, the more that we advocate, and if the more that we can change laws is good, because the changing of laws is like a permanent change. Um,
Hmm.
and that's another thing. You have to learn how to navigate the whole politics thing, right? So I
Oh,
didn't know
yes.
anything. I didn't know anything about politics, right?
Most
But
people
then
don't. When you
I
really,
didn't.
before
But
this
then I
happens, you don't know.
if you want to bring a bill up, you got to go to a senator, you got to get somebody to buy into it, or, you know, you have to have backing through the political arena. And, you know, I didn't know a lot of that, you know, I didn't know a lot of that. And so, you know, I'm navigating that too, you know, on my page, I'm very adamant about saying I don't want any political comments on my page, you know, my own personal Facebook page. I don't get involved with that. I post information. I'm all about information. And I try extremely hard to only post factual information that I can validate in more than one place. Like I really do try hard. Um, you know, especially if it's, you know, like a state attorney general or the
Hmm.
DEA or the FBI putting it out, you know, or the White House, you know, you go to whitehouse.gov, you know, different things that are taking place. So I try to be as factual as I can. And try not, but I did have to learn how to navigate that. And I also had to learn to navigate that when you're in groups like this, drug-induced homicide, that you know, and this includes pretty much all groups, I think, but drug-induced homicide specifically, you know, people aren't always so um, willing to listen to us. You know, there's some stigma associated to the name. That's why
Yes.
I always tell people when they come to the table, I'll have like all the different stuff out, and I always put out little gifts for people, for their loss, and I always tell people, well, do you know what we actually do? And then I teach them. And by the time they're done, they're smiling and happy, and oh, I have a drug-induced homicide card, and they're walking away
Yeah.
with a card.
Yeah.
So, it's really good. Uh, I'm very, very proud and honored to be a part of the organization, and very proud and honored that they represent me and my child, and the battle for me and my child. So all the families. It's not, what everybody in Japanese homicide, we're all fighters. We're all, we work hard for change,
Yes,
you
you
know.
do. Yes, you do. And I know
So,
that you all will continue to do so. And that's what's really needed.
well, we all try hard. We all do what we can. Like I said, we find our niche. Podcast is yours, and Howland. I want a ton of stuff in my car and putting up tables is mine. So, I've been talking to people on the phone and monitoring. Like I said, I'm an information person. You'll see. I let you come on my personal page, so you'll see. I post a lot of information. That's what I do. So
Debbie, I want to just thank you so much for spending so much time with us today and telling us about your beautiful daughter and everything you've
Ava,
gone through. Ava
Ava
Michelle,
Michelle, and your daughter is Angela.
Angela,
Is that right?
Angela
Angela,
Marie. Hmm.
Angela Marie.
My stepdaughter, and she was 11. And the one thing I do remember, I don't know why this is coming up for me, but when she was dead longer than she was alive was a hard year, because she was only here for 11 years, you know.
Yes, yes.
But
So
I'm still grateful that I knew her for the time that I did. And oh, she would make me laugh. She would say the funniest things, and it's just hysterical. So
that was my daughter's thing. She'd make me laugh hard.
yes,
She
yes, she
we
would.
yeah, she had a great
Yeah.
sense of humor. All
And
our kids
she
were to
she had a
school.
heart of gold, just like, Ava did. When my Nana was in the hospital, she wanted to go see her. And I'm like, wow, at 10, at 10 years old, she had the wherewithal to even ask such a thing. And I
That's
brought her and
wonderful.
her younger brother, to go see my Nana. And we made it very matter of fact, like, this is life, this is what happens,
Oh,
and she went to go see Nana. And I'll never forget that day.
probably made Nana's day.
It did. She
Yeah.
was not expecting it. We didn't tell her we
Oh,
were coming. So that was really a big deal. She had a, amputation from diabetes. And and so she needed all the uplifting everybody could give her. So when Angela and her little brother Stanley went to go see Nana, it was a big event, and I remember telling both of them how proud I was of them, you know. And so all those memories that come to me, um, at this point, I can talk about it pretty matter of factly. It's been a long time.
but it makes you happy,
It
right?
makes
That
me
memory made you
happy.
happy, right?
Yes. And the
My
pink
daughter's
cotton
memories make
candy
me
and all
happy.
those little things like that, the pink cotton candy, and
Yeah.
funny
And
things.
that's the whole thing of living in the light.
Yep,
You live in the light of their life. My daughter was free
exactly.
spirited. She was funny. She could rap music like there was no tomorrow. She was in, and yeah, she was into that, that music that I really,
Mhm.
really didn't like. And
Yes.
now I actually look for her music. Like
Aw.
I'll look for Meek Mills or I'll look for Drake or I'll look for those rapping songs, because that's what and she would make me laugh. She would dance to that while she was, so now, I would never in a million years, I would scream at her, turn that off. I can't stand it. I
Yeah.
can't drive. I can't stand it. And
Yeah.
now I'm actually like pushing the buttons looking for it, you
Yes, because
know?
they remind you of her.
It reminds me of her. Yeah, yeah, she definitely makes me smile. And I will say that the majority of her life uh, was wonderful. And I will always be very proud of her. That uh, it was about 4 years in addiction. I won't sugarcoat it. It was hard. It was probably some of the hardest things I didn't, I felt so helpless.
Sure.
And I did everything I could. And, uh, that wasn't who she was. That wasn't my daughter. That wasn't my child. That was drugs destroying her mind and her body. And, but for all the years before that, 20 years, she was an amazing kid. And I'll always be proud of her and I'll always be happy to speak about her and represent her uh, because she's also an advocate. Um, you know,
She
she
is
may be
every
on
day
the
of her
poster.
every day of her
She's
spirit life. Right?
She's definitely an advocate, and she's very vocal as an angel too. I always say, she's extremely vocal. I get a lot of signs from my daughter, and I always have since the day she died. And lately, I just posted this on Facebook. She's been a little quieter ever since I had the last court hearing. And I just found a penny yesterday at CVS, and no one would have found this penny but me. Nobody. Nobody would have found this penny but me. I'm telling you. And I just said, I don't hear as much, and maybe that means that she's more at peace because the justice is served, and it's,
Yes.
she knows that mom's not going crazy trying to, make everything happen and be where I need to be. And, I, and I think she's more at peace, and I hope she's more at peace.
I think she is. I mean, you've been such an advocate for her,
And I can imagine that your Angela is definitely at peace.
Yes, I think she is. We did everything we could, like you did everything you knew how to do, and that's the most we can ask of each other, And so I am grateful that you were with me today. I really appreciated this conversation and getting to know your daughter.
Thank you. It's great to know your Angela, though, and you.
Thank you. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for letting me speak about drug-induced homicide.org, an organization I'm so proud to be a part of. And most of all, thank you for letting me speak about Ava for Life, Narcan Services, and my daughter Ava's cheerleading. And I just really appreciate being able to share my child. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And I just want to explain to my audience how important it is to please subscribe, rate, review wherever you find us, either in the audio or video version, because the more we do that, the farther it will go. The algorithms will shine on us, and we need that. So please do that for us. Become a member, subscribe, and we look forward to the next episode. God bless.
God bless. Thanks, Mary.
Welcome.
Bye.